Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's new English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hi, hello, welcome. Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome back to the studio. We're here, sandwiched between Christmas and New Year. And we're back here, standing in the studio, ready to start revising some more English. Now, last lesson, we looked at the comparative form of adjectives, and we had another look at the spelling of comparative adjectives. We learned that the spelling depends on the length of the adjective and how many syllables the word has. Now, in lesson 59, in week 12, in the 59th lesson in the 12th week, we also looked at opposite adjectives and how to spell some adjectives and comparative adjectives. Great! Well done! Fantastic! So, now that we managed that task, let's think about opposites. So, what's the opposite of easy? Well, there are two possibilities, hard and difficult. So, what's the opposite of easier? Well, hard is a short adjective. It's only got one syllable. So how do we make the comparative form? Good. We add ER. So hard becomes harder. Great. Now what about difficult? Well, difficult is a long adjective. How many syllables has it got? Difficult. 3. Difficult has got 3 syllables. So how do we make the comparative? Good! You remember, we put more in front of the adjective. So the comparative form of the adjective difficult is more difficult. Okay, what about the adjective cold? What's the opposite of cold? That's right. The opposite of cold is hot. And what's the comparative form for the adjective hot? Well, it's a short adjective. It's only got one syllable. So how do we make the comparative form? Good. We add ER. But wait a minute. Hot ends in vowel plus consonant, doesn't it? So what happens to the end of the adjective when we make the comparative form? That's right. We double the last letter. Okay. So the comparative form for the adjective hot is hotter. Okay, now what about the opposite of better? Aha! This is an irregular one. Do you remember that the comparative form of good is better? That's right. And the comparative form of bad is worse. So the opposite of better is worse. Well done! So, let's think about the opposites of these adjectives and then make the comparative form for both adjectives. Cold, hot, colder, hotter. Tall, short, taller, shorter. Good, bad, better, worse. Easy, hard, easier, harder. Easy, difficult, easier, more difficult. Now, in lesson 60, in the 60th lesson, there was a roundup of the relationships we learned about. Aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. And we also practiced using comparative adjectives to describe the differences between the children of the Benchfield family, and using than when we use comparatives. Okay, now let's combine what we've learned this week, the Benchfield family and the comparatives. Right, let's get it on. Okay, let's see some information about the Benchfields. Let's start with the kids. Mabel, if you're able, get us the info in a table, please. Okay, so there's the table. Now let's make some sentences about the Benchfield kids using comparative adjectives. Whee! Okay, let's think. We should start with Tim. Tim is 14 years old. John is 9 years old. This means that Tim is what? That's right, Tim is older than John. Good. Now, what about a sentence about Tim and Elizabeth? Tim is 14 and Elizabeth is 30. So, Tim is also older than Elizabeth. Okay, we're on a roll. Tim is 14 and Doreen is 12. So Tim is older than Doreen. In fact, Tim is older than John and Elizabeth and Doreen. Great. Now, let's have a look at Doreen. Doreen is 1 meter 49 centimeters tall. She's 149 centimeters tall. Okay. Elizabeth is 1 meter 57 centimeters tall. She's 157 centimeters tall. This means that Doreen is shorter than Elizabeth. Using the information in the table, we can see that Doreen is shorter than Tim, but she's taller than John. Great! And what about Elizabeth? Well, look at the table and we can see that Elizabeth is older than Doreen, and she's also older than John. Elizabeth is younger than Tim. Fantastic! Cadbury's cream egg, Yorkie bar, Monster Munch, Skips, rhubarb and custard, scampi and lemon knickknacks. Okay, onwards, gods of English. Let's have a look at John Benchfield. John is younger than Tim. John is younger than Elizabeth, and John is also younger than Doreen. John's brothers and sisters are all older than him. John is shorter than Tim. John is also shorter than Elizabeth. John is shorter than Doreen. So, John is shorter than his brothers and sisters. John's brothers and sisters are taller than him. All right. Now, when we started week 13, we made sure that we didn't panic. For the gods of English, there is no bad luck. We, the gods of English, make our own luck. And what do we say to people who think that 13 is unlucky?
What do we say to people who think that 13 is unlucky? Well, the best thing to say is, you, my friend, are talking piffle. That should stop them. Tell them that you are a god of English, and point out that gods of English make their own luck. So, stop talking piffle.
Now, in lesson 61, in the 61st lesson, we met, for the first time, the simple past tense. Before we started in on the simple past, we revised the present simple tense.
Now, today we're going to look at the past simple form of the verb to be. Do you all remember the verb to be? I'm pretty sure you do. After all, every single last man, woman and child of you sitting there watching this is a god of English. But just to make absolutely sure, just to be 178% certain, let's have another quick look at the verb to be. Here's the verb to be in full. I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, they are. And as we all remember, we have to be careful with the first person singular form and the third person singular form. All the other forms are the same, are, but the first person singular form is am and the third person singular form is. We can't say I is and we can't say she am. It's I am and she is. Okay, that's the full form, but as you all remember, we normally use the short form, don't we? Okay, let's see the short form for the verb to be. I'm, you're, he's, she's, it's, we're, you're, they're. Okay, so if you think hard, you can all remember how we used the verb to be in our first few lessons. We used the verb to be to introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Gav Duncan. Hello, my name's Gav Duncan. And we used the verb to be to introduce other people too. Do you remember? This is Alfredo Benchfield. Hi, her name's Margaret Bissett. We learned the positive form and the negative form, the singular forms and the plural forms. We also learned the negative forms for the present simple version of the verb to be. Here's the negative for the singular forms. I'm not, I am not Jeffrey Banana. You're not, you are not Dave Squid. He, she, it's not, isn't, is not French. And here's the negative for the plural forms. We are not, we're not. You are not, you're not, you aren't. They are not, they're not, they aren't.
So, in lesson 61, before we started on the past simple, we checked the present simple tense. And elephant's toenails, we're out of time. That's all the time we have for today's lesson. Well, we'll pick up next lesson where we left off today. You've been watching me, Gav Duncan, on M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan, not Forrest Whitaker or Damian Lewis. I'm Gav Duncan, and I'll see you next lesson for some more English revision. See you later. Bye.